Hi guys, welcome back. So as you can see, we have a guest on the channel today. Like the title of the video says, we're going to be talking about CVs. So I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Exodus and I am a recruitment consultant, and I'll be here sharing a few tips and tricks on how to improve your CV and how to be recognized by recruiters.
So welcome Exodus to the channel. So I did put in the community tab and on TikTok what questions you guys had, but I don't think some of you saw it. So just make sure to keep an eye out on the community tab just in case I post stuff that I need you guys to be involved in. I'm going to begin with some questions, and if you guys have some questions you can put them in the comment section and we might do a part 2 if you guys want it. So somebody on TikTok asked, is it okay to lie on a CV? And in your opinion, your professional opinion, is it okay to lie on a CV?
First and foremost, it's definitely not okay to lie on a CV, because when we're doing the phone calls and the interviews, we will catch you out. And if we feel you're being dishonest, we'll catch you out and we're less likely to put you forward for roles. However, you can get away with exaggerating certain things and highlighting your achievements, rather what your responsibility were. You could say, for example, in this project, we managed to achieve this, and that. We managed to complete this project within this time period. This is how much customers we reached. This is the KPIs that we reached through these projects. You get away with that rather than just saying your responsibility, or if you're saying, oh, I was just an administrator, part of the team. So you can kind of exaggerate your role or your impact instead of lying. So it's really hard to navigate. If, for example, let's just say you are a administrator, for example, and you just say, I type on the computers or I do Word documents. It's better to say I am proficient in Microsoft Excel and Word. And then you can say, for example, I write 100 words per minute. You can say the kind of other platforms that you use. For example, some people use Salesforce. You might say you used Forth. You have to include all of this because this is what makes you an administrator. It's not just the fact that you can put words on a piece of document.
Okay, so all in all, what I'm hearing is it's not okay to lie on your CV, for those of you who are wondering, but you can just exaggerate a little bit, obviously within reason. Like, you can't say I can type 800 words a minute when you know that's physically impossible. So exaggerate within reason, but exaggerate in such a way that if they ask you about it, you're not then struggling to make it make sense because you're obviously making it into a lie. So just make yourself look extra good. So you said that when you call people on the phone, you can catch them out in a lie. So after they receive your CV, you guys will call them or you'll speak to them on the phone as well?
So, for example, if Microsoft reaches out to us and says, we have some jobs that needs to be filled, could you find us candidates, for example? So we normally put job boards where, for example, Indeed, we write the job description, and then when people apply, for example, when you apply on Indeed, it gets sent to us. Then we have about 200 to 300 normally applicants for each role, and then we go through each one, normally calling them. Sometimes we will see an applicant that we will just say, not worth my time. Not worth my time, not worth my time. It's not in a rude way, for example. It's in a way that we have seen your CV at face value and we simply have not seen you're somebody worth calling, for example, due to the things that's like visually on your CV straight away.
Okay, so once you get people's CVs, you'll call them to kind of double check and confirm what's on their CV.
Exactly,
and that's when you catch them out in a lie if they're lying.
And yeah, this is initially where we catch them out in a lie. If they sound like a good candidate, they're able to speak well and can back what we can see in the CV. Because normally the screening calls are about 10 minutes long, 5 to 10 minutes at max. Because you're busy, you're probably at work when we're calling you. So this is the time we quickly just go through your education. Oh, have you got a degree? For example, some jobs require degrees. We don't really care where you got your degree from, as long as you've got the degree. What we care about is your experience, job titles of roles that you have done, included how long you have been there and what kind of company it is. Because, for example, if I'm hiring for a computing company, I want somebody that has experience in computing companies before. Okay. It just makes it easier to transfer the knowledge.
Okay. Be prepared that once they've got your CV, then they'll call you. And when they call you, make sure that you can back up what you've put on your CV, guys. Don't just make things up, because that's when they'll catch you out. So, on to the next question. What are the things that stand out on a CV to recruiters, like the good and the bad? What stands out?
First and foremost is the format of your CV. This is what allows us to easily read your CV and potentially put you forward for a role, or just say, not worth my time.
So is that like spacing, font?
Yeah,
lines,
that's exactly it. That's exactly
the
it.
physical
The physical appearance.
Okay. So what makes what CV looks good and what makes a CV look bad?
A good CV has a clear format. For example, it will have your name and your details, for example, emails above. Then the next section, it will have a list of your education. And then it will have your experience. And then under your experience, it will have like your skill sets, like, for example, projects you've done, what you're proficient in. Like, oh, I'm able to use Microsoft. I'm able to code, for example. That comes last normally.
Okay.
So if you have an easy to read format, brilliant. And we also look out for people that have bullet points. I know that you've always been told to write in clear, big paragraphs, but on your CV, do not write in paragraphs because we simply don't have the time.
Isn't that different for different careers? Because I'm thinking in counselling, we can't necessarily bullet point certain things. Let's say if I'm saying I've worked in a school as a therapist, and okay, I had maybe 20 clients in the time I was there, and I dealt with different variety of mental health issues. Wouldn't a short paragraph work better than bullet pointing? Because we don't have like numbers per se to put in our skill set besides maybe 20 clients or listing the mental health issues that we worked with. Could it be different between different careers? Or
it could be, but in most cases I've seen it is not. For example, some companies will ask you for a cover letter, and in counselling that's what we normally see. In counselling they'll ask you for a cover letter, and there you can go in depth about your experiences and things that you have done.
Okay.
Keep in mind, the CV is not what gets you hired. It just gets you through the door. It's just a quick face value explanation of you.
Wow, the CV is not what gets you the job, and we all thought it was. Now I'm disappointed.
No, it's definitely not the CV. It's the interview that gets you the job.
It's just a knock on the door, like, hi. Okay.
Exactly. Your CV might be brilliant, however, you might do poor in your interview and you don't get the job. You'll say, I have such brilliant experience and I've got exactly what they're looking for. How come I didn't get the job? It's, for example, you didn't articulate yourself well enough from your CV to your interview. That's why it's not good to lie, because you can lie and say all these tremendous things on your CV, but when it comes to your interview and they're grilling you, when I tell you they grill you on your interviews,
we grill them.
Okay, we grill them on your interview because we need to find out everything. Because if we send you over to Microsoft and there you sit down with the manager there, and you turn out to be a terrible candidate, it doesn't look bad on you, it looks bad on us.
Okay.
So they're less likely to use us or call me next time they have a job.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, all I remember is that your CV is not going to get you the job, which is
It's not. It gets you through the door.
But it's important that the layout is also really impressive. What makes a bad layout in terms of the appearance of the CV? Like when you're looking at a CV and you're like, oh my gosh, this is bad, I'm not even going to give it the time of day. What is it that makes you say that when you look at a CV?
What makes a bad CV to me is it's too long. There's too much information in the CV. And
I'm guessing a lot of the time it's a lot of waffle and
unnecessary it's just a lot of unnecessary things. If I have to read paragraphs on paragraphs, keep in mind this is not an essay. This is just literally a freeze frame of your working career that you're showing me.
Yeah, like a snapshot.
Like a snapshot, because in theory I spend about 8 to 18 seconds on a CV. Because we need to go through 300 CVs for one job. This is not just for like my whole day. This is just one job. I need to go through 300 CVs. I quickly skim and scam, then I create a shortlist that I go further in depth from.
Yeah, so that tells me, I'm guessing, whatever you put under each job, it needs to be the skills that are the most impressive and the most important figures and numbers and stuff, so that in those 8 to 18 seconds...
that I can be like, oh wow, he did this. Oh wow, yeah.
Okay.
So
and what else looks bad or makes you skip a CV?
Pictures. Do not include your picture on your CV.
People put pictures?
The amount of pictures I've seen on your CV.
Of what?
I do not need to know what your picture looks like or how you look like.
Oh,
I don't want to.
People put pictures of themselves.
Yeah, of themselves, like headshots of themselves in the corner, and that makes a terrible CV. Some jobs, rarely, like 1% of jobs will ask you like include a snapshot of yourself, for example, but most jobs do not. And another thing you should not include for sure is your age, because that's where age discrimination comes from. For example, if I am hiring for a role and I see that you're 60 years old or you're 70 years old, if I have innate in me the age discrimination, I'm less likely to put you for a role because I'll think,
You could be retiring.
yeah, you're going to be retiring in 5
you-
years, and then I'm going to have to find somebody else who's going to cost me money. Maybe it's better for me to find somebody in their 30s, 40s, somebody that'll work for me for a long time.
And is that similar for maybe someone who's quite young and is just recently
And it's
graduated?
also similar for somebody who's quite young. So ideally, unless you're going for a graduate job, you should not put the year you have graduated, because internally I'll start doing the maths. So you graduated in 2021. You've got 2 years of corporate experience. So any other experience before that, I'll probably not count as relevant because you were 18 or something like
You're
that.
somewhere between 20 and 25.
Yeah, so you were like, it wasn't a full-time job, for example, if this is what you were doing during uni. So please, unless it's a graduate job and they ask for somebody who's graduating in the summer of 2023, do not, I repeat, do not, put your graduation year at all.
Okay, so you've answered a lot of the questions I had, which is great. So you better be taking notes, guys. I wanted to ask how long should your CV be, but since you said not too long, how long should it be specifically?
1 page. Absolutely 1 page. That's why I say keep everything in bullet points, because if you do paragraphs and paragraphs, it's going to go to the second page. I have not got time to read the second page because that's like reading 2 CVs.
Damn,
Yeah.
You're boring
Like
him.
literally, normally what people think is the manager sitting there going through every single little detail of what you did. We do not. We've got about 18 seconds.
Yeah.
What we do for the interview is we will look through your interview so we can ask you, oh, you did this. Tell me about this. Oh, you were managing this. Tell me how this went.
Okay.
That's the only time that we actually go thoroughly in your CV.
So what about because for me personally, sometimes I'm like, is it bad if it goes over just a little bit to the next page? Like maybe less than a quarter or just a quarter of the next page. Is that bad still?
Yes, it is, unfortunately. And that's why you're coming to my next point as well. Your CV should not have jobs that you have done 20 years ago, okay? You need to keep your most relevant jobs. I do not need to know what you did when you were 16. I do not need to know what you did when you were 17. So if, for example, your administrative job, I probably need your last 3-4 jobs. You do not need to go any further than that. I might ask you what you've been doing in your time before that, and then you can share it. Great, but you do not need to go any further than that. For example, if somebody's in their 60s, they'll probably have gone through 5, 6, 7, 8 jobs in their lifetime. If I can see that you've been working at various jobs, 8, 9 jobs over the years, I'll just start calculating your age, and this might lead to age discrimination.
Okay, so what if somebody has, let's say, they were in their career, but maybe for a time they had to leave their career. Maybe they went to retail because for whatever reason they let's say somebody got made redundant from a job in their career,
Gaps in your career.
and had to then maybe go to retail just to pay the bills because they couldn't get a job within their field in that time, and then they came back to their career. And obviously, like you said, don't put irrelevant jobs. Obviously they don't need to put the retail job for the job that
Exactly.
So would they need to then explain what happened in that gap?
Yes, gaps in your CV. So if, for example, we see that you have not worked for about 2 years, you need to have a brief explanation on your CV. Why there's a gap?
I went into retail.
You can't say I went into retail because I had to pay the bills. You can just say you were in between jobs, or you were traveling. For example, you had a child, or it's a maternity leave. You can say all sorts of explanation. As long as
you say that you were sick?
You could perfectly say you were sick. That's perfectly normal to take some time off work to be sick. For example, we get a lot of, I was looking after family.
Does that reflect badly on you though if you had that gap?
No, it doesn't reflect badly on you because we know that it's life, and life happens. Okay. For all of us, like during COVID, so many people were made redundant. We can't hold that against them because it's a pandemic, for example.
So they do have a heart, guys. You can be honest. They have a heart. They can be a bit understanding.
Yeah, but please explain the gaps in your CV.
Okay. Do you have to write it in the actual CV, or will it kind of come in the interview?
We'll ask you in the interview, but if you've already explained it in your CV, it gives you more of a more leverage, for example, because in the interview I'll be like, oh, I see some gaps in your career. Can you tell me what happened there? And then you can just explain yourself in more details.
Okay, so if Okay, so if I had like a 2-year gap between 2018 and 2020, I can just write it in 2018 to 2020.
It had a child.
Okay, all right, cool, makes sense. That's lovely. So what are things that you should put on your CV? Because we've already talked about what you shouldn't put, like don't put pictures, don't put age, year of graduation, etc., etc. What should you put on your CV? Like some of the things that are really like helpful, not just in terms of content, but in terms of appearance as well.
Okay, what you should put on your CV, first and foremost, my favorite thing is facts and figures. Having numerical evidence of who you are and what you have done really pushes you up the ladder. For example, I managed 5 to 10 people, or I managed accounts of 100,000. This is an ideal candidate. I know exactly what they did, when they did it, how they did it, who they did it with as well. It's really important.
So I think even in counselling, I guess that's where the bullet points come in handy. At the moment, I've been applying for placements and I've been putting like 150 plus supervised client hours, which is something they look for.
Beautiful. Okay. Exactly. Okay. You can't just say I've done various numerous hours, I've done many. No, I've done 150. Now I know exactly where you stand. You've got over 150 hours of experience. You're not a newbie. You're used to this.
And obviously, you guys know in counselling, a lot of the measurements in terms of experience is based on client hours. So it's very important to note down how many hours you've done with clients. And if maybe it's one placement, for example, when I was with the school, I think I worked with over 10 students in the space of time I was there. So writing how many clients I've worked with would probably be helpful as well, I'm guessing.
Very helpful. And it also is very important for how long you're in that role. You can't just say I did this job. I need to know how long you've been in that job, for example. If you're changing job or jumping jobs every 2-3 months, it doesn't look good on you.
What else should people definitely put on a CV? So facts and figures is one thing. What else?
You should also put your skill sets and your university degree. For example, if you've done psychology, you need to mention I've got a psychology degree. Because sometimes when we're looking at jobs, for example, that the managers for these jobs have asked, I want somebody who has a master's degree, or I want somebody who has a psychology degree, or I want a level 4 or 5 diploma. Okay, you need to,
Do people not put their education on CVs?
Many people don't put their education.
I thought that was obvious, but make sure you put your education.
Exactly. Please put your education, because you might get disregarded for roles that you're perfect for simply because you have not put your education on it.
And that should be the top part.
Yeah, that should ideally be the top, because that's right under your name and that's here first.
And what about, because at the moment I feel like now that I'm gaining more qualifications because I'm that girl, I'm wondering, is it actually important or even necessary to put like GCSEs and A-levels?
Don't put your GCSEs and don't put your A-levels. At the end of the day, we do not care about what you got in your maths and your English, okay? Because if you're doing a degree, we're just going to think that you've passed through maths and English.
Because I used to put like, because I know I learned that like, I used to put GCSEs and I think I put like 8 A star to C grade, including maths and English.
We don't care.
Okay, they don't care. Don't put that there.
Imagine you've been in your career for like 10, 15 years and you're telling me about your GCSEs. I honestly do not care if you studied Tudors or Nazi Germany.
The only people that care about your GCSEs are your A-level schools that need to know.
Very much so.
Okay.
So that lie we were told, oh, you need to get your GCSEs, jobs are going to ask you. We're not going to ask you.
They stop asking you once you finish your A-levels. It doesn't matter after that.
We ask your most relevant education. That's what we normally ask. Your most recent, sorry.
Because at the moment on my CV, I think I put my master's that I'm doing at the moment, my level 3 counselling diploma, which I did just before that, and then I put my psychology degree before that. And I think that's the only thing.
That's the only things you need to put, because for the jobs you're going for, what they're really going to look at? They're not going to look at your A-level psychology.
I got an A in applied business. Yes. They don't care.
You got an A?
Yes, I did.
I got a B. Damn.
Yeah, I got an A in applied business and an A-level. Not that they care. So, you have no
don't
bragging rights about your GCSEs and A-levels. So, that's not important. Okay?
So, please definitely don't put your GCSEs. Just put your most recent.
So far, the things you definitely should put is your qualifications and your education that are the most relevant to the job. No GCSEs and A-levels. And facts and figures. What else?
What else? One thing you could also mention is projects that you were in, for example. For example, you see within companies, you do various projects. For example, if you do construction, a project might be like, we built the shard, for example. You should definitely mention that you contributed to the building of the shard. It just gives you a new level of pizzazz and engagement and what?
An extra edge.
An extra edge, perfect word. It gives you an extra edge upon your competitors. We can see like visually something that you have done. It's always great to include your projects.
So I think in counselling, let's say for example, you obviously work with clients just like everybody else, but maybe you were the person that introduced or created a new therapeutic approach, or maybe you were somebody that created like a new branch or a new extra something within the company that would be really relevant to input. So not just saying that you worked there and that you worked with clients, but extra things that you contributed that maybe not everyone else did. So yeah, brag about yourself.
No, for sure, definitely brag about yourself. For example, if it's a new company and you've been there since the very start, you can definitely mention that I contributed into the start of this new company, or I contributed in the initial running of the HR department of this new company, because it probably didn't have a recognized one.
And if
you can definitely mention this.
If maybe you filled in for extra roles that you weren't even supposed to do, you maybe took somebody.
Exactly. If you had to like go into marketing and cover some marketing roles, definitely mention that.
And extended your role to other things and helped out the company in different ways. Yeah. Okay. So is there anything else that people must add to their CVs that, even though we feel like it's common sense, like educational achievements, it might be common sense to you, but maybe not common sense to everybody else?
I would say software. It's very important to include the kind of softwares that you have used in your past jobs. I worked shortly in the hotel industry, and we use Opera to do like the bookings and etc. So it's very important to put like the kind of software that you're able to use. It also shows that your proficiency in IT, which is very big, especially in the corporate world.
Because you can't just say I'm proficient in IT, but you haven't explained how or showed why. So
or like what you can do.
So it's like saying I'm proficient in IT. I can use Excel, I can use Photoshop, I can use Opera, and so on and so forth. Okay.
And make sure you're not lying about this. This is the part that said lie within your means, because if there's a project there, your manager will remember that you can do coding. So if they ask you to do coding and you're starting to look sideways, it might cause lack of trust in the future.
Okay, cool. So is that all for this?
That's all.
Okay, so like I said, guys, if you have any extra things that you want to ask in the comment section, please do. We could make a part 2 if we have enough questions. If not, then I'll just ask for him to answer you guys in the comment section. So now I'm just going to ask if you have any extra tips for the viewers, any extra stuff that I haven't asked that you feel like they should know when applying for jobs and, you know, making their CVs perfect.
Okay, perfect. So here's some of my tips and tricks. The first and foremost is this website that even I personally use to create my CVs. It gives you like free templates, and you literally just fill in your information on it, and then it's literally the perfect CV template I've ever seen.
What's this called?
It's called onesorting.com. It was from a former recruiter in America who left recruiting and started his own platform. It's completely free. You don't need to pay a single penny. You just download the templates, and then you can just fill in the information that's relevant for you.
You never told me about this. When did you find out about this?
How do you think I've been getting all these jobs?
Wow,
so yeah.
But you never told me. Okay.
You're doing counselling, so it's a bit different for you.
Oh, so it doesn't apply or work for counselling?
It does apply and work for counselling. However, you need to know that this website has different templates for different jobs. I do corporate mostly, so my template is slightly different to yours.
It would fit under like health and wellness industry.
Yeah, so your CV, they have a CV template for that. It's just slightly more different. It allows you to be more expressive of what you've done, while mine has been more bullet pointy.
Yeah, we love words. We love words a lot. Okay, cool.
My next tip would be, please read the job description first and foremost. Okay?
Is that not obvious?
No, because some people would literally just see a job and be like, oh, let me apply for it.
Okay.
To better your chances in getting a job, read the job description and see if you've got some of the skill sets, or if you've got like some of the things that they're looking for, if you've done it, and then mention those specifically in your CV. So
Yeah.
when the recruiter is reading through your CV, they're going to be like, I've got this in my job description. I've got this in my job description. This person must be perfect.
That's a good tip.
Literally.
Because if they're saying, for example, I know when I did the video about the counselling job market, some of them specify 450 client hours. If you see that in the job description, don't now go to your CV and just write 300 when in the job description it says 450 hours. If you have 450 hours or more, make sure to then put that in your CV so that they know that, oh, this person fits perfectly.
Exactly.
And don't pretend like you know, don't apply for it if you can see that you don't. But something else, sorry, before you carry on, I've heard that sometimes you don't need to have 100% of everything on the job description.
No,
100%. As long as
100%.
you have like, what, 70-80% of it, or...
I would say I would go even lower than that.
Oh, okay. So if you have even half or just a bit over half, you can still apply for the job. When you go to the interview, if you stand out, then they'll still hire you, even if you don't fit everything on the job description.
Like I said, it doesn't get you the job, it gets you through the door. And 50%, you're less likely with 50% to get through the door, but there's still a chance you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Okay, so even if you feel like you fit 50% of the job description, if I see that, for example, you have the qualifications, you've got like the relevant years of experience, and you've got like on your CV like the skill set, and it matches the skill set that I'm looking for, I could take this opportunity to send you to an interview, because in my head I'll be thinking I could nurture you into this role and make you the perfect candidate. Because it's we're not always expecting like somebody that comes to the job and they can do the job everything straight away.
Okay, yeah.
Rarely we find those kind of people, rarely. But very often we find people that have 80% of the job description, 75% of the job description, and we'll definitely give them a shot. As long as you can impress the hiring manager in the interview, you're perfectly okay to do that.
I think that's an amazing tip. So don't be afraid to go for the job. Of course, I think there are some things that you have to just be like smart about. Like obviously, if you don't have a certain level of experience that they're asking for in certain things, then you know that don't. But at the same time, if you feel like you still have the relevant experience, maybe you've got one less year of experience.
Exactly. If they're asking for 10 and you've got 8 or 7, apply for that job.
Apply, go for it. So yeah, I think that's a really good tip, because I think a lot of the time people are afraid. And something else I've heard as well is that men are more likely to apply for jobs they don't fit.
Exactly.
Then
That's
women
unfortunately that's the case. Men, from what I've seen, are more likely to apply for a job even if they fit only 50% of the description. Women tend to go for jobs they either 100% or 90% fill the job description. So
women, go for it. Don't be afraid
no,
to shoot
literally
your shot.
go for the jobs. We do not discriminate when it comes to women or men in the job industry. As long as you're capable of doing the job, we will give you a shot.
Wow, thank you. That's actually really helpful, because I didn't really know that fully. So all in all, just remember that you can apply for jobs even if you don't fit like the full job description, as long as you can fit at least half of it. Like, remember, you're just knocking on the door. You're not saying like, and I know rejection is a thing, you feel you don't want to be rejected.
That's the worst thing that can happen, is they say no.
Yeah,
the worst
but
thing. The best thing is you get an interview.
You keep going and you never know. Imagine getting a job with just 50% of the requirements. And I think obviously they give like a really high standard and really high threshold, but will very much just be like, even though we want this, we can still accept you with this. So, and as well, I think, even though I know you said that you might get 200 applications for one job, some jobs maybe don't get that many applications and they'll just take whoever comes anyway, even if they don't have the full like they don't fit the full job description. So don't be afraid, because you could be that maybe one person who's better than all the other people that have applied. Maybe you fit 60%, but everyone else fits 30% of the job description.
Exactly.
So go for it. Don't be afraid.
And next, I would say specifically Black and Asians and women and older people. There's actually a few jobs out there that are specifically made for you guys, and that you guys are encouraged to apply for. So definitely keep a lookout for that. For example, if there's a company that has too many young people and not enough old people, they might specifically hire older people. So make sure you look out for these jobs. Some jobs, they're trying to be more, diverse and inclusive. Yeah.
So
EDI.
how would people know if the job is for a certain demographic? Would they specify?
It would all be specified in the job description as well.
Okay, that's good. All right, that's nice.
No, definitely go for these jobs. You have a really high chance of getting these jobs.
Okay. Do you have any more tips for them?
I have so many more tips.
Okay.
And the next one, never tell your recruiter your salary. Okay? Never
your
tell
current salary.
your current salary. Okay? Never
okay.
tell them your current salary, because if you tell them your current salary, they might lowball you Okay, so you need to be careful who you're speaking to first and foremost. If you're speaking to a recruiter from an agency, they want you to get the highest possible salary because they make profits of that.
Okay.
If it's an internal recruiter, they might like give you a lower salary in terms of budgeting terms. Okay.
So if they do ask you what your salary is, what should you say?
You should always ask, what is the salary range for this role?
So you say, what's your salary? And I say, what's the salary?
Okay, ask me.
What's your salary?
Before we get into that, I would like to hear more about the budgeting you have available for this role.
I'm not sure. So what do you normally like? What's the response that they'll normally give?
They'll normally give you a range of the lowest possible and the highest possible. So they'll tell you like 30 to 40k for a role, instead of you just saying, oh, I'm looking for a job that's 30k or 32k, and they're like, oh, perfect.
So after they've told you what the range is, do you still tell them what the highest range, or do you
just go for the highest range?
Okay, cool.
The worst thing they can say is no, and you should definitely not be afraid to negotiate. You need to know your worth. We're living in a cost of living, okay? Do not take the bare minimum, okay? Do you know one thing I'd suggest they use? Make sure you use Fishbowl and Glassdoor. Basically, this is an app and a website that tells you the current average salary for the role that you're going for in those exact companies. So if you know that there's people in that company getting 40,000 for the same role you're applying for, if they're offering you 30, you know there's something wrong. Okay, so it's called Glassdoor. I'm going to include all the websites: One Sorting for your CVs, Glassdoor, Fishbowl.
Yeah, it will all be in the description box.
She's got you. It'll all be there. Like, use these to find out the roles, especially before interviews. You go through them. So when they ask you and they try to lowball you, say, oh, I'm actually looking for this kind of salary, or I'm actually looking for this kind of salary.
They can afford it, but obviously
they can definitely afford it, trust me.
Yeah, work smarter, not harder, guys. We got you. So yeah, okay, makes sense.
And feel free to negotiate. If you say a higher salary than they have offered, they're not gonna say no. Okay. For example, if you tell it to us, we'll go to the company and say, this client is looking for this much. Can you be flexible with that amount? They'll either say, no, we can't. This is the max we can do. Or they'll either say, great, we can actually offer you this. Or they'll say, we can offer you something in between. Or they could potentially say, we could offer you bonuses and shares on top of the salary that we have already given you. So do not be afraid to negotiate. I've seen people get 15,000, 20,000 boost from negotiating. Okay, that's definitely, seriously,
that's worth it. I'm gonna learn how to negotiate, because I don't know how to negotiate, so I'm gonna learn, because that's amazing.
Definitely, you should always negotiate.
There's a budget for it. Know your worth, guys. So that's another really great tip. So don't ever tell them what your salary is, and don't be afraid to negotiate your salary. Like, just because they present to you a number, just know that they're probably presenting you with the lowest range possible that they can. So they definitely have a higher budget, but it's just up to you to now negotiate and ask for that, especially if you're jumping from another job, a 30k job maybe, for example, and you're just leaving because maybe the place is toxic, but you don't care how much you're getting paid, and then you go to another job and they're saying 29. Chances are they can probably go up to like 35 or 34.
Chances are they probably can.
So don't be afraid to ask, guys. So that's an amazing tip. Thank you.
And talking about that, here's one thing you should definitely never do. Okay, never smack talk your previous employers, ever, by no means possible. Even if they were the most toxic, worst people, worst manager ever, do not smack talk them. Okay, do not smack talk them. Don't say anything negative about them. Okay, the reason you can say for leaving jobs is career progression. Maybe you didn't feel like you could grow more. You're looking for new opportunities. You're looking for new challenges. Maybe you're moving because you want to be closer to a company, so you travel less. You're relocated. There's so many reasons you can use. If you smack talk your previous employers, we're less likely to hire you, especially for that fact. Do not smack talk your previous employers, no matter how bad they were. Trust me. So you leaving is great enough. That
leads on to another tip. I think you mentioned something about getting fired and what to say and what not.
For example, if a job has fired you, please don't tell your recruiter that, oh, I was fired. We're less likely to hire you. So many people say, oh, this role fired me because I had an argument.
But what if you got, I don't know if it's possible to get fired for a good reason, but what if you got fired for a good reason? Is that even possible to just be like,
name me one good reason to get fired?
I don't know.
Apart from the company shutting down.
I I was too good for the job. I don't
I was
know.
too good for the job. Yeah.
So you can't ever say that you've been fired.
Okay, let me give you guys a naughty tip.
Ooh, okay.
So basically, if you're applying for a job and you've got the job, they've given you an offer and they say, we would like to hear some references, okay? It's always good to have good relationship with some people in the company because you can always use them as a reference. It doesn't particularly have to be your manager that hated you, okay? So even if it's your colleague, we just need it to be somebody that has the company email. So for example, if it's like...
Even if it's the janitor, as long as they've got the company. I'm joking. No, don't do that, guys. Don't do that.
I mean, you could get away with it. Like if it's like see the counselor at google.com, that's a good reference because it's from somebody that's still in the company.
Meanwhile, I'm just the receptionist.
Exactly. Meanwhile, you're still the receptionist. Okay, more time than not, we do not actually go to their LinkedIn and check their actual position. We don't do that. And more time, the person that's getting the reference is the HR team, and the HR team don't normally care too tough about where the reference is, as long as it's a reputable reference.
So what do they do with the reference? What do you guys do with the references? Do
We
you
just normally call them and say like, was he a good employer?
Oh.
Like what would you rate them 1 to 10? I've actually said those lines literally.
Okay, so it's not like a proper deep investigation.
It's not an investigation. Normally people think like, oh, we'll go for your financial records, we'll go for your bank. No. A reference is literally me. We're having a conversation from somebody who knows you.
I guess only do that, like use people in the company if you maybe left on bad terms with like the managers.
Yeah, but if you had like left on good terms with your manager, definitely go for your manager because they'll uptalk you as well.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's lovely. So that's a naughty tip.
Naughty tip. And lastly, I would say if you've done a role for a short period of time, do not mention it on your CV. Another naughty tip. If you were an administrator for like a month, do not mention it. Unless it's the kind of work you do, because sometimes people do temporary work. It's their thing. You need to mention on top temporary, like temp worker. Yeah. And if you've done something for like 6 months and it was like a fixed term contract, you need to mention fixed term contract, because we will ask you, why did you leave so quick? Because if we see you as too jumpy sometimes, especially on short periods,
you're gonna leave us too.
You're gonna leave us too, okay? It's okay to be jumpy if it's 2 years plus. Okay, you've done a lot for that company, 2 years, 3 years plus. That's okay. But if you're jumpy like every 2-3 months,
it's giving trust issues.
Trust issues.
Then they can't trust you. So.
Toxic trust issues.
Okay, so if you are somebody who likes job hopping like a bunny from job to job to job, unless it's temp work that you do, then don't
mention it.
Okay.
Another naughty tip.
Oh wow, I'm giving you guys the tea. Go on.
If you have friends from an original company that you left a while back, even you can still use them as a reference and put on your CV you're still on that job. Okay, I wouldn't recommend you do it. Okay, I wouldn't recommend. Do not do it. Yeah. But you can. For example, I left this job not me personally. I left this job a year ago and you're still using them in your CV, okay? Or I'm still there presently. You can say that as long as you have some good relationships there to reference you, okay? But you should definitely not do that. Go ahead.
Okay. Is there anything else? I think he's been...
I think anything else, any questions they have, we'll have to leave for a part 2 if that's what they want.
Okay, let us know if you want a part 2. Thank you very much, Exodus, for all your help.
You're very much welcome.
I think you've helped the people a lot, even myself. So, yeah. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys...
in the next one.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.